Okay, so today I want to talk to you about the telos and how it has gone from Aristotle over here and his interpretation and view of the telos all the way to Aquinas on this side here. And that's quite a gap. Um, so Aristotle was alive in the 4th century BC, so a very, very long time ago, whereas Aquinas was in the 13th century AD. So we're talking about 1700 years between them. But this intellectual gap isn't as big at all. I thought it would be a good idea just to define what a telos is, first of all. A telos is, do you remember from our previous tutorial? It is a purpose. So it is the aim of the thing. It's a Greek word that means the aim or purpose. So we're going to start with Aristotle, and we're going to focus on Aristotle today and his view of what the telos is, why he thinks there is such a thing, and so on. And then we're just going to look at how that's influenced Aquinas. So Aristotle wrote Nicomachean Ethics, which is an old text, a collection of his lectures put together by his son Nicomachus, which is why it's called the Nicomachean Ethics. Aristotle was an empiricist. So an empiricist is someone who believes that you gain your knowledge through experience rather than through reason alone. And he was also a virtue ethicist. So a virtue ethicist is someone who believes that right or goodness is not in the action, like, say, Kant thinks, it or the consequences, like a utilitarian thinks, but rather he thinks that goodness is in the virtues, is in good character. So we're going to get into all of that. You notice there's this very long word here, eudaimonia. I'll define that as we go on. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten that it's there. I just haven't gotten to it yet. So we're going to start with Aristotle's first argument, which is his argument for the ultimate purpose or telos of humankind. So this is the function argument. The function argument starts with the observation that all things or activities as well have a telos. They have some sort of purpose. Okay. And then he makes the claim that all human activities aim, or their telos is at, aim at something else. Let me explain what he means by that. I think an example would be a good idea. So one example might be, let's take an ancient Greek example, making spears. Here's the spear making activity. Now, spear making is so that you can then go to war, right? If you went into war without spears, you would end up dead very quickly. But if you have spears, then you've at least got a chance. And if you're Greek with a spear, a bit more than a chance. Now, why do you go to war? That's the question, right? So you notice here, this activity has a purpose. Its telos is to go to war. That is the telos of making spears. But actually, going to war also has a purpose, right? The purpose of going to war is either to defend land or to take land, if you're an ancient Greek. So again, this has a telos, but the telos is outside of itself. It's gaining more land. Well, why do you want to gain land? Well, ultimately, you want to gain land so that you can be happy. So that's the ultimate purpose. But why do you want to be happy? What is the kind of telos? Ooh, misspelt telos. What is the telos? You'd have thought I got it right, having written it like 4 times, but never mind. What is the telos of being happy? Where does that telos go? Well, it doesn't go anywhere, does it? If I were to ask you, why do you want to be happy? You wouldn't have a quick answer to it. In fact, you wouldn't have really any answer at all, apart from, well, I want to be happy because I want to be happy. That is the telos of happiness. So all human activity aims at something else apart from eudaimonia. Now, eudaimonia is Aristotle's view of happiness, his understanding of happiness. Eudaimonia or eudaimonia, or however you wish to pronounce the ancient Greek word, where no one speaks ancient Greek anymore. So, what is eudaimonia? I'm fairly certain, by the way, pronouncing it eudaimonia is incorrect. It's just how I learned it when I was young, and it's now stuck. So, eudaimonia is sometimes just called kind of human flourishing. That's a simple way of putting it. It literally means uh, having a good demon. Essentially, he conceives of humans as having 2 things. So humans have kind of rationality, which is the thing that makes us distinct, and we have virtues, good characteristics. And eudaimonia is the kind of bringing together of these 2 things. It is these added together make us eudaimonic. So eudaimonia, this then for Aristotle is the final end or final telos. It is the thing that is good in and of itself, the purpose of our lives, to be flourishing, to use our rationality and virtues combined. Now, where does this get us? Well, this gets us to kind of the next stage of Aristotle's argument. The next stage of Aristotle's argument is all to do with kind of the ultimate purpose of nature or the world. Remember, all things, not just human activities, but all things have a purpose. And this is how he starts this argument. All, which is the final cause argument, apologies, all things have a purpose, or a telos. A chair is for sitting on, a person is for being eudaimonic, a bed is for lying on, and so on. And if all things have a purpose, then the universe itself must have a purpose. The universe has a telos. And if the universe has a telos, it must be aiming at something final, what he calls the final cause. So the universe then aims at this thing, at the final cause, the ultimate thing, the rational, perfect thing. The final cause has no telos outside of itself. It is its own telos. And it attracts everything else. Everything else kind of aims at it. So that's Aristotle's view of a telos. That every human has a telos, eudaimonia, and the universe itself has an ultimate telos, the final cause. Now, quite briefly, how does Aquinas take this on? Now, Aquinas refers to Aristotle not as Aristotle, but simply the philosopher. That's how highly he regards him. He imports most of Aristotle fully. How does he interpret him precisely, though? Well, there's one big difference. He sees the universe not being drawn towards some final cause, but rather being caused by it. Caused, in this case, by God. And God gives the universe purpose and direction, much like an archer gives an arrow direction. So that's one way in which he differs from Aristotle. God gives the universe purpose. But importantly for us, as we're studying his natural moral law, he also pretty much interprets this kind of argument the same way, that the human telos, so the human telos is now two things, not just one. It's happiness and also God. In many ways, Aquinas is kind of Aristotle if Aristotle believed in the Christian God. So that's Aquinas's, broadly, interpretation of Aristotle's view of the telos.